अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. We are now in the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Today we will be doing shloka number 13 of this fourth chapter. To quickly recap what we did in the previous sessions, in the fourth chapter, Sri Bhagavan is talking about himself. So he says that one who understands him in truth, in reality, will be able to achieve the highest happiness and will not take birth in material existence again. So understanding him is to know that his nature is not the same as the nature of the Jivatma in the material existence. He is permanently in the state of mukti. He is not struggling to get mukti like the Jivatma in samsara. He is always in mukti. So how do we get to know him? There are different paths. The best path is that of bhakti yoga. That becomes clear in the Bhagavad Gita as we go forward. So in the shlokas in between, in the fourth chapter 2, he touches upon bhakti. So he says that unfortunately, not everybody accepts that path. And therefore, he also points out that nevertheless, I reciprocate with people according to the manner in which they approach me. So people approach Sri Bhagavan in different mentalities, with different orientations, and he reciprocates accordingly. He then points out in the shloka that we had in the last class that many people, they follow dharma according to the Veda, but their interest is actually in the material desires. To fulfill their material desires, they follow dharma. Dharma is seen as the means to be happy in material existence. Only a few people realize that actually getting out of material existence is the goal, or should be the goal. And that is where the real happiness of the Jivatma is discovered. But most people don't realize that. They focus on enjoying this material world in a sattvic way, in a way that is in accordance with dharma. So that kind of activity is called kamya karma. And kamya karma is the predominant subject matter of the Veda. Only a small portion of the Veda, which is called Vedanta, deals with the rejection of kamya karma and trying to get mukti and discovering the Jivatma's real pure happiness. So the Bhagavad Gita is a book of Vedanta. The Bhagavad Gita is focused on rejection of kamya karma and promoting the idea of parodharma and the attainment of nitya sukha or nitya ananda. Okay, that is what is the subject matter of the Gita. So therefore, Sri Bhagavan accordingly advises us to reject kama and look for that higher form of happiness. Now going forward, this is also something we did in the last session. We looked at the tree of dharma. Broadly, we said there are two types of dharma discussed in the Bhagavad Gita, samanya dharma and parodharma. Samanya dharma refers to the systems for ethical material existence, and parodharma refers to systems of spiritual realization and liberation. Samanya dharma is practiced through broadly two types of activities. The first category are called nitya naimittika karma, which refers to daily and periodic activities specified according to varna and ashrama. And kamya karma are specific activities done for certain types of gains. Now, the word dharma is also used to refer to the activities of nitya naimittika karma because that's what dominates. The predominant activity of civilization will be nitya naimittika karma. So the word dharma is kind of a synonym for that. And what does the general practice of dharma do? It leads to the accrual of punya. Punya is good merit. It's like you earn credits, like we say carbon credits today for doing certain things by which you reduce pollution and so on. So punya is activities done which are beneficial to society, which are in accordance with dharma, and they ensure better material existence in the future, a happier material existence in future births or even in the present birth. Now, specific kamya karma activities pertain to what are called as artha and kama. Artha refers to certain types of wealth and so on. Kama refers to sensual enjoyment, different types of pleasures that we get. So kamya karma is aimed at artha and kama. We looked at some examples in the last session. Parodharma is attained through yoga. The Bhagavad-gi is a book of yoga because it's focused on advocating parodharma. So in the Gita, broadly, two paths of yoga are given. The first one is what I have labeled as karma jnana yoga because it's known by both names, karma yoga and jnana yoga. It's only one single path, but it's known by these two alternate names. The other path that's given is completely independent of karma jnana yoga. It's called bhakti yoga. Karma jnana yoga is based on varnashrama, whereas bhakti yoga is not based on varnashrama. It's independent of varnashrama. Now, both of these parts of yoga, they lead to moksha and prema. So if you see the right side of this slide, I've listed the four purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama and moksha. And then prema is also listed here. Prema is not included in the four purusharthas, but prema is considered the panchama purushartha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his following, his disciples and others, the scholars who came in his line, they pointed out that the Bhagavatam actually tells us to even reject moksha as a goal. Moksha is desirable, but even that can be an obstruction to get pure love, which is prema. And prema is a higher form of existence than just moksha. So moksha with prema is definitely better than moksha without prema. And prema by itself, where even moksha is not a consideration, is the highest form of existence. So that's what the Bhagavatam tries to advocate. The Bhagavad-gita does not talk so much about prema directly. It talks more about moksha directly. But indirectly, prema is present throughout the Gita because the way in which Krishna is talking to Arjuna, very often he mentions that, you are very dear to me. That love between him and Arjuna comes out in so many places in the Gita. So prema is implicitly, or you can say in a hidden way, in a tacit way, prema is mentioned in the Bhagavad-gita. Going forward, today's shloka, the 13th shloka of the 4th chapter is this. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashaha tasya kartaram api mam vidhi akartaram avyayam. So what does this mean? Chaturvarnyam. Chaturvarnyam means it's a word that's built out of the word chaturvarna or chaturvarnam. Okay, we know the four varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So together, a collective noun is formed called chaturvarnam. So chaturvarnyam refers to the system which is based on the chaturvarnas. Okay, chaturvarnyam. Maya means by me. Srishtam, created. Guna, karma, vibhagasha. On the basis of guna and karma. Okay, two words are used, guna and karma, and we will dwell on what they mean today. Vibhagasha means the classification. Vibhaga, division is done on the basis of guna and karma. Tasya kartaram api mam, of that system, I am the doer. Okay, api means although I am the doer, I am the creator of that system. Mam vidhi, know me to be akarta, not the creator. Because avyaya, because I am not subject to vyaya. Vyaya means that which deteriorates, that which gets spent, that which diminishes over time, or that which transforms over time. But I am avyaya. Therefore, connected to that is the fact that I am also akarta. Akarta as well as akarta. Akarta means not the doer. Karta means the doer. So I am both the doer as well as not the doer. So what does he mean by that? Okay, we will come to that. So this shloka will be translated like this. The system involving the classification of human beings into four varnas or categories based on guna, material nature, and karma, prescribed duties, was created by me. Even though I am its creator, please know that I am not its creator and I am unchanging and imperishable. Okay, so now let's try to understand what he means. First, we will try to understand what is this classification system and how is it related to the gunas. Okay, what does the word guna mean? The word guna in Sanskrit actually can be translated in multiple ways. One very obvious translation is quality, right? Guna. We say in Hindi also, acha guna, bura guna, dushta guna wala. So guna refers to quality. That's one direct translation. In Sanskrit, guna has other meanings as well. One more meaning of guna, which is also used in Hindi, is measure. Okay, do guna, we say sometimes, right? Means 2 times. So guna is used as a measure in Sanskrit also. It comes from Sanskrit. So guna can be used as indicating that something is a multiple of something else, and so on. Now, the meaning that is relevant here is a third meaning. Guna also means string or rope, something that is used to bind, right? So in this context, in the context of Bhagavad Gita, when we talk about guna, specifically here, and also later on, which I'm going to show now, is in this sense of something that binds, or as a rope or a string, right? So one way to translate guna here is a rope of material nature. And we will see the 3 gunas, or 3 types of ropes of the material nature. Okay. So guna pertains to material nature. Material nature is composed of these gunas. And these gunas are actually 3 types of ropes which bind the Jivatma to its material existence. Okay. So now we will look at the classification in terms of gunas. I've made a table. So we have the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Now, the Brahmana is predominantly influenced by the sattva guna. Okay? The Kshatriya is influenced predominantly by sattva mixed with, or you can say rajas, where sattva is mixed into rajas. Sattva mixed rajas. Okay? Predominantly rajas, but sattva mixed rajas, not pure rajas. The Vaishya is influenced by rajas mixed tamas. Okay? Tamas is the base, and into that rajas is mixed. The Shudra is predominantly influenced by tamas. Okay, so now these qualities, to understand these ropes, how do these ropes influence the different activities or the natures of these people? Okay, to understand that, it's actually described in the 18th chapter. It's not described in this particular shloka of the 4th chapter, but in the 18th chapter, we see this description. Just give me a moment. Yes. So that is how karma comes from guna. The guna-karma relationship, the correlation between guna and karma emerges because of this. It says the Brahmana, because of the predominant influence of sattva guna, has these kind of activities. He engages in shamaha. Okay, the shloka that is present is like this. Shamo damas tapas shaucham shantir arjava vevacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam Brahma Karma Swabhava. So this shloka in the 18th chapter lists 9 qualities of the Brahmana, or 9 karmas which are born of sattva guna. Because of sattva, the influence of sattva, the Brahmana is naturally inclined towards doing these 9 types of activities. The first is shamaha. He likes to do internal restraint. He controls his senses. He doesn't, he doesn't like freely indulging his internal senses, the mind, the intelligence, the ego, etc., in something whimsical. He wants to focus them on activities like studying or meditating or chanting, things which are spiritually, or even materially in terms of dharma, which are focused, which are well focused, controlled, and so on. That's called shamaha. Damaha refers to external restraint. Shamo damaha. Damaha means external restraint in terms of, say, activities like eating food. The Brahmana will be careful in how much he eats, what he eats. Okay, there is a restraint that he applies. Similarly, in play, in any activity he does, he tries to balance between doing too much and doing too less. Okay, sleeping or anything. For example, taking bath. It is said that when somebody is in tamoguna, he does excess of something. For example, if he takes bath, he will take bath for half an hour. He will just soak himself in the water and try to enjoy from there. Right? That is a sign of tamas. Now, sattva guna, the person in sattva guna will just take bath for enough time to clean his body, but no more than that. He will come out of the bath and go to his next activity. Okay, damaha means restraint of external activity, well controlled, balanced. Tapaha, he likes austerities. He likes to perform austerity, like different types of vratas, mauna vrata, remaining silent. He takes a vrata that, okay, the next 3 days I will not speak to anybody. Because speaking is one way by which our mind is engaged. So when we control our speaking, the mind also gets controlled. The mind becomes calm, more peaceful. Okay, mauna vrata. Similarly, upavas or fasting. So fasting from food, either all food or fasting only on water with eating fruits and so on, different types of fasting. So tapas. Tapas is where we voluntarily take difficulty for the body and mind so that it purifies us. We become stronger. Tapas results in strengthening us. Okay. In fact, all the sattvic activities, one of the meanings of the word sattva is strength. Sattva literally translates into, you can say, truth, truthfulness, goodness, and also as strength. So sattvic activities give us strength. They make us stronger than what we are. And that strength gives us happiness. And therefore, sattva leads to happiness. Sattva naturally produces happiness from inside. The fourth type of activity is keeping oneself clean. Okay, shaucham. And shaucham is both internal, bahishaucham, external shaucham, and antashaucham, internal cleanliness. Both types of cleanliness is indicated by shaucham. External cleanliness that we understand, that's easy to understand because it refers to keeping the body clean, keeping our external body, that is the gross body, clean. Internal shaucham, internal cleanliness refers to keeping the mind clean, filling the mind with only pure thoughts, rejecting impure thoughts, thoughts of sensual pleasures, wicked thoughts, thoughts of harming others, taking revenge on others, or contemplating on insulting experiences. And all of us, sometime or the other, are offended by somebody else or insulted by someone. So contemplating on that, okay, that fellow insulted me, he's a wicked guy. When can I take revenge on him? So this kind of thinking, that's becoming free from that thinking is internal cleanliness, okay, keeping the mind calm, peaceful, focused. Shantihi. Shantihi here refers to patience or endurance, okay, being willing to, allow things to happen in the natural way, not becoming impatient. Arjavam. Arjavam is simplicity. A Brahmana or anybody in Sattva Guna who cultivates Sattva Guna likes to be simple. Okay, simple in all the way activities are done. For example, food. Eat food which is nutritious but simple. Don't have too many items, maybe 3 or 4 items in a meal, not 10, 12 items. Okay, that tendency is, the hankering for that is always there in the mind. But the Brahmana consciously says, I will keep it simple. When you do work in a very simple way, in the way in which the goal is accomplished, but unnecessary complexities are avoided. Okay, ask yourself, is it required to really do this in order to reach my goal, in order to complete the purpose of this work? So simplicity, keeping things simple. If something need not be done, then don't do it. Do only what has to be done. Okay, and straightforwardness. Don't be shrewd, not being duplicitous, being simple and straightforward. Okay, arjava. Now, all these qualities which we listed so far, these kind of activities, they are favorable to the cultivation of knowledge. A person with such a mentality will find it very easy or very natural to be attracted towards intellectual knowledge. Okay, so cultivation of knowledge of Shastra is jnanam, and Sri Bhagavan specifies vijnanam as separate. He says that, okay, it's not merely knowing Shastra by memory, not merely memorizing shlokas and knowing that. That's important. That plays a role, that gives the foundation. But going deeper and asking deep questions, existential questions, philosophical questions. So intellectual inquiry, that's called vijnanam. Okay, vijnanam also means aiming for realization, internalization of that knowledge. Astikya. Okay, astik, the loose meaning of the word astik, especially in Hindi, is believing in God. Person who believes in God is astik, and person who doesn't believe in God, in the existence of God, is nastik. But here in the Shastra, it specifically means, astikya means the conviction in the Shastra, in what we call Shastra. Okay. So for us, Shastra means the texts which are based on the Veda. The Moola Shastra is Veda. I will come to that in the next slide. The Moola Shastra is the Veda, but all the other Shastra aligned to the Veda, like the Smriti, the Puranas, the you can say the Shastra like Ayurveda, they're all connected to the Veda, right? So all of that is Shastra. So Astikya means forming your life's, purpose, your orientation based on the Shastra. That is called Astikya. The person who comes out of the Shastric domain, he becomes a Nastik. Okay, as per this definition. So these are all the qualities or the natural karma of the Brahmana. The Brahmana engages in all of these. These come naturally to that Brahmana because of his influence of sattva. The sattva influence is acting upon. Okay, now what about the Kshatriya? The Kshatriya is influenced by sattva, but rajas mixed into sattva. Okay, rajas is present now. So what is that? So even though sattva is present, the presence of rajas takes the Kshatriya's orientation towards other things which the Brahmana may not be attracted to. So the presence of sattva in the Kshatriya definitely gives him these qualities as well. So he has some of these qualities which the Brahmana has. Kshatriyas also study the scripture, the Shastra. They also reflect, they also engage in deep intellectual inquiry. In the Puranas, you will see, for example, Arjuna, who is now the recipient of the Bhagavad-gi. He is actually a very deeply, developed individual in the sense he's not merely a Kshatriya, he's not merely a person who's expert in shooting arrows and finding its target, but he's also philosophically very realized. He knows very good intellectual. He's got very good intellectual ability. Okay. Similarly, many other Kshatriyas, the kings, the Raja Rishis. So they were also very scripturally informed. They studied in the Gurukul, and they can engage in philosophical discussions. Okay. Now beyond that, Kshatriyas have these qualities. Okay. Shauryam means they are very valorous, they're heroic. Okay. They like heroism. They like to display leadership and say that, okay, I will take this risk. I will take risk and accomplish something for the benefit of my citizens. Tejaha. Tejaha refers to, one meaning of Tejas is, like illumination or heat. Here, Tejas specifically refers to courage, confidence. Okay, that's burning inside him. He's very confident. He's not afraid of something. So he's not afraid of failure. For example, if an enemy challenges him, he's willing to take on that enemy. Okay. Dhriti, steadiness, steadfastness, firmness in commitment, firmness in performing his daily duties, not whimsical. Daksha means being expert, being skilled in whatever he does, aiming for expertise. Yuddheja apalayanam. So this word, this phrase means that in a battle or when there is a challenge, especially when there is a fight, the Kshatriya will not give up. The Kshatriya will not leave and go. Even if the enemy is very powerful, the Kshatriya will put in his best, and it's considered to be shameful. That's why in the beginning of the Gita, when Arjuna says, I will leave this kingdom and go. Beg your pardon. He says, I will leave this war. I don't want the kingdom. I will leave this war, this battlefield, Kurukshetra, and I will go back because I don't want to fight with these people. I don't want to kill them. Now, Sri Bhagavan points out that, well, your intention may be good. You're leaving the battlefield not out of fear, but you're feeling compassion, so you're living out of compassion. But your enemies won't think like that. They will just laugh at you. They will just say that, okay, this person Arjuna, whom we thought was a great warrior, we were always a little cautious about. Now this guy has looked at our army and he's just gone away. See how the real nature of Arjuna is now seen. Enemies will criticize you all your life, and you have to live hearing that. So what is the point? So Yuddhe apalayanam. This is a expected quality of a Kshatriya. He will never give up. He will never surrender. He may get killed. For him, death is definitely better than leaving the battlefield and going away. Okay. So then Dhanam. the quality or the activity of giving in charity. Kshatriya is very liberal, just like the Brahmana also has this quality. So Kshatriyas are always willing to help and give others charity and ensure that they are doing well, especially their citizens. And finally, Ishvara Bhava. Ishvara Bhava literally means the sense of being a master of somebody, okay, being a leader, being a master. And here specifically it refers to his the role of governing or ruling others. This is a natural activity for a Kshatriya. And Kshatriya who doesn't have this activity is devoid of one major aspect of his life. And that is why in the Mahabharata also we see the Pandavas, the Yudhishthira negotiates with Duryodhana. He says that, okay, you don't have to return the kingdom to me. You don't have to even share the kingdom with me. All I'm saying is give me 5 villages, 5 small villages where I can do this duty as a Kshatriya. Ishvara Bhava is naturally present in me and I have an obligation to engage in it. So please give me just 5 villages. And that is the turning point where Duryodhana says, no, even that I will not give. Because Duryodhana is so scared of the Pandavas that he's afraid that if he gives even those villages, then, it's like saying, leaving a crack in the door. You leave a crack in the door and then a bigger hole will appear after some. So the Pandavas will find their way through and they will take away my entire kingdom. So he doesn't want to give them even 5 villages. He just wants to ensure that they have no place to stay and they will be finished. So Ishvara Bhava is a necessary quality or a necessary activity of the Kshatriya. Vaishya. The Vaishyas have 3 qualities mentioned in the Bhagavad-Gita. They probably have more qualities, but in the Gita, these three are mentioned. You think of these as the 3 prominent qualities of a Vaishya. First is Krishi or agriculture. Second is Gauraksha. Gauraksham, serving the go. Here the word go refers to the specific species, which in biology is called the Bos indicus or Bos taurus indicus. Okay, I'm saying this because the word go is translated as cow, right? And we refer to something known as cow. And when we see cow today in India, there are multiple species which are different, which are present, which are also called as cow. Okay, so what is colloquially called as desi gai, okay, is what is referred to as go, and that has this Latin name as Bos indicus or Bos taurus indicus. The other species that we see in India, which is also called as cow in English, is not acknowledged as go. Doesn't come under go seva or go raksha. Now that species, in the Latin name of that species is Bos taurus taurus or Bos taurus in simpler phrase, Bos taurus. So Bos taurus is different from Bos indicus. They are different. It's like Homo sapiens. We are Homo sapiens, human beings. Now, closely allied species may be a chimpanzee. I'm sorry, I don't know what its Latin name is, but they say chimpanzees are very close to human beings. The evolution tree, chimpanzees are the nearest branch or something like that. Okay, if that is true, I don't know if evolution really happened like that, but if that is true, then the chimpanzees are a species which is distinct from the species known as Homo sapiens. Even though the chimpanzee resembles, in terms of its appearance, the human being, the chimpanzee is not a human being and it's not to be mixed with a human being, right? Human beings are human beings. Yeah, even though human beings themselves can be of different races. Okay, all over the world, if you go to different regions in the world, you find different races. Within India, you find so many different communities. Within the same country, you find so many different communities and cultures of human beings. But all of them together are called human beings or Homo sapien. In the same manner, only the Bos indicus is called the go. And any other animal which looks like the go, in Sanskrit, it's called Gavaya. The word for that is Gavaya. Okay, so what is called as the Jersey guy in India? Okay, the Jersey guy. The Sanskrit name for that is not go, it's called Gavaya. Gavaya means that which resembles the go, but not the go. It's not the go. So when we say go seva or we say go maya, okay, when we talk about the cow dung, we say cow dung is auspicious for, say, puja. We use cow dung for puja, right? We use go mutra or go maya. So all that is from this species Bos indicus only, not the other species. So Gauraksha means doing seva to the go. Okay, why is go seva important? Now, in our Samskriti, go seva is considered to be the topmost form of dharma. It's parama dharma. Why is it so? Because the simple reason is that Sri Bhagavan considers the go to be his Bhagavan, means he worships them. So it is said in Hindi, go Bhagavan ke bhi Bhagavan hai. The go is the Bhagavan of the Bhagavan. It is so important. Okay, now a question comes, why? I mean, why should this particular animal be treated like that? Why not? So there's so many other animals also. Why not they also? Why only this particular species of animal? Now the answer is that this particular species has two qualities in perfection. And the two qualities are niraparadhi and paropakari. Okay, niraparadhi means the go by itself will never go and attack another animal. It's peaceful. It lives by itself. It grazes on some grass, left to itself, unless you go near it. If you go too close to it, it may sense some danger. And then it may, out of the sense of danger to protect itself, it may attack you. But if you don't go near it, if you just leave it by itself, the go will never come and try to, attack you or try to get something out of you. It lives by itself. It may only, when it's very hungry, it cries for food. It asks for food. Okay, it moves. And by the moving sound, it asks for food. But otherwise, it's peaceful. It's a niraparadhi. And the second quality is paropakari. Paropakari means that it gives to society, it gives to the rest of this world, not only to human society, but to the world in general, so many beneficial things. Okay, the milk, for example, coming out of the go is considered very pure. And it's considered to be a kind of a almost perfect replacement for the mother's milk of a human being. Okay, when a child is born, the mother's milk is considered the best food for that child. And if for some reason the mother's milk is not available, the best substitute is this milk, go milk, okay, gai ka dudh. So this milk is one of the reasons why that gai is considered the mother for us, because that milk is also fed to our babies and it nourishes the baby very adequately. So that is only one thing, but so many other things from the go's body are also useful to human society. Okay? For example, the dung, okay, what is called as cow dung, is beneficial in so many ways. It's used for cooking, it's used as manure, it's used in medicines, right? It's used for purification, it's used in puja. The deity of Sri Bhagavan is done abhishek. You do abhishek with cow dung, you do abhishek with cow urine, because they are considered very pure. They have so many good properties. Okay, the dung or the urine of no other animal is considered to be having those pure qualities. Okay, so they are used as medicine, etc. So in this way, and the body of the go also, even after its death, some parts of the body are used as medicinal ingredients in Ayurveda. Okay, so go is very special in our Samskriti, and we see that it's not only in Hinduism but also in allied religions which came out of Hinduism, like Jainism, Buddhism. There also the go is given a lot of importance, right? Varnijyam, the next quality, the next activity of the Vaishya is Varnijyam. Varnijyam means business or commerce. So Vaishyas are responsible to ensure that business, trading happens, because they're also agriculture. Predominantly, our society is based on agriculture, right? Agriculture and core, like minerals, jewels, minerals, mining, and metals. So all that you can say is part of Krishi. And the Vaishyas are responsible for that. And once they do Krishi, they also engage in commerce, Varnijya, to ensure that everybody in the society is adequately fed and taken care of. And finally, the Shudras got only one activity, or its activity is described only with one phrase, which is paricharyatmakam karma. The Shudra predominantly is under the quality of tamas. And therefore, the Shudra is not capable of doing things which the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya can do perfectly. But he can actually play a very strong or very good assisting role to all of them. Okay, for example, for the Brahmana, he can help the Brahmana in keeping the Brahmana's household clean. or preparing the place of puja or the yajna. The Brahmana is supposed to engage in yajnas. So keeping the place of yajna clean, bringing the materials for the yajna and keeping them available for the Brahmana to do the yajna, disposing the waste, everything the Shudra can do very well. Okay, so Shudra therefore plays the role of paricharyatmaka. Now, it's very important to know that in our society, okay, now the obvious criticism that all of us know is that this is actually, division of this is exploitation of the weaker classes by the stronger classes, by the upper classes. The lower classes are exploited and stuff like that. Now, I should say that in the varnashrama system, there is no exploitation. Okay, there is only cooperation. All the four varnas recognize the mutual interdependence between themselves. They're all interdependent. They're all dependent on each other. No class is exploiting the other class. That understanding is what binds the varnashrama system together. In fact, the Shudra, you see, it's described that the Brahmana came out of the mouth of Vishnu, right? The Kshatriya came out of the arms and the chest of Vishnu. The Vaishya came out of the thighs of Vishnu. And the Shudra came out of the feet of Vishnu. So when people say this, when this is heard, people immediately say that, why do you say Shudra came out of the feet? Why not the Shudra came out of the mouth? But here it should be pointed out that even though it's described like that, the Brahmana, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, they worship the feet of Vishnu. The feet of Vishnu is considered as the most worshipable object for everybody. And the Shudra came out of that place. Right? So which means the feet of Vishnu, not the mouth of Vishnu. We don't say the lotus mouth of, we say the lotus mouth of Vishnu, but the meditation happens on the lotus feet of Vishnu. The worship happens, the tulasi is offered to the lotus feet of Vishnu, not to his mouth. Right? So therefore, the Shudra is actually given a very exalted place by saying that he came out of the feet of Vishnu. So we should not think in terms of exploitation. When we think of varnashrama, it is actually a system of cooperation. It's mutual cooperation. It is equivalent to how in today's society, where the varnashrama does not exist, we still have people who are devoted to the activities that the Brahmana is supposed to do. Like, for example, the activities of studying, books, teaching. Profession of teaching, studying is the Brahmana's job, which we see in today's society very much prevalent among one class of people. Similarly, the activities of Kshatriya, activities of protecting others, activities which require taking risk to one's own life for the sake of others' welfare. We see a whole class of people doing that. We see people doing commerce, because of which the economy runs and we are all able to get what we need, right? And we also see a class which is supporting the other three categories of people, right? And we say that we should not discriminate. We should respect the people who are doing labor. Don't we say that? It's exactly like that. Just like we want a society where there is no exploitation today, the Varnashrama also was like that. The people who designed Varna, Sri Bhagavan, designed it like that. There was not meant to be any exploitation. There was meant to be only cooperation. And that is how it ran. Okay, but today, the system which degraded led to the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas exploiting lower classes. Okay, and to all the caste, what is today called as the caste system. So we should keep this in mind as we read about this Varna system in the Shastra. The other two shlokas, which I forgot to mention in the meantime, refer to the Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. The shloka which describes the Kshatriya's activities is the Shauryam, Tejo, Dhritirdakshyam, Yuddhe Chapya Palayanam, Dhanam, Ishvara Bhavascha, Kshatram, Karma Swabhavajam. And the other two, the shloka which refers to the Vaishya and Shudra, Krishi Gaurakshya Vanijyam, Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam, Paricharyatmakam Karma, Shudrasyapi Swabhavajam. And so these three shlokas are the 42nd, 43rd, and 44th shlokas of the 18th chapter of Bhagavad-gi. Okay, Subhashish, you had a question. I think you've raised your hand.
Yeah, sorry, sir. My laptop, I think the sound was not audible. I couldn't wish you also when we started. Am I audible here, the mobile?
Yeah, you're audible now, yes.
Okay. Sir, one clarification on this, this natural karmas of the respective varnas. So the birth then is determined, because I think you have mentioned in the past that what we are in this birth is a combination of what we have been accumulating over a number of births, infinite births, as well as what we are in this birth. While each of these burners have their assigned roles and they do accordingly even in the present day society, but people who are in a certain varna and the kind of work that they're doing, there are certain sufferings associated with. Is it a function of the earlier births? Is that how one rationalizes this? How would one justify the good deeds of, let's say, somebody who's born a brahmana in this birth and ends up doing whatever is not desirable of a brahmana in some sense? So what does it happen for? Is somebody who's a brahmana in one birth continues to be a brahmana in infinite births? Is there? So I have this doubt for a long time. So I just wanted to clarify this.
Yeah, excellent question and very relevant question here. Yes, the first part of your question is about how does one get the birth of any of these varnas? Yes, it's based on past karma. The past karma that we have accumulated over several lifetimes ultimately decides the qualities with which we are born, or the gunas into which we are born in a given birth. So when we come into birth in a particular life, then we are born into either sattva, rajas, tamas, one of them predominating, the others being mixed into them. And like we saw here, therefore we are born into one of those classes according to those gunas. Now, once somebody is born with those gunas, then they are supposed to do that varna. Now, the Shastra has a provision that, okay, let's say, for example, somebody who's born a Kshatriya says that I will develop sattva guna, I'll become a Brahmana. Is it possible? Now, theoretically speaking, yes, it is possible. Like, for example, the case of Vishwamitra. But then we also see how that has to be only an exception, because Vishwamitra had to undergo tremendous amount of difficulty. His swabhavik nature of being a Kshatriya comes in the way many times, right? It comes in the way, you see the story of Vishwamitra, how he has so much ego against Vasishta, he's not able to give it up easily. He has to do tremendous amount of tapasya to be able to overcome that ego, and then finally he attains that stage of a Brahma Rishi, which Vasishta also recognizes. And then he becomes equivalent to a Brahman. And therefore, it cannot be a normal process. It cannot be a process for the masses. It can't be a mass process whereby people interchange varnas. They go from one varna to another varna. Although theoretically it is possible. Okay, now the question about what would happen to a Brahmana who doesn't follow the duties of a Brahmana. Now, the system of dharma is so strict, the Samanya dharma system is so strict that if you don't follow the dharma of the varna that you are born into and you're supposed to follow, then you accumulate papa. So it's either papa or punya. If you do your dharma properly, you get punya. But if you don't do it properly, or if you try to do the dharma of another varna, then you get papa. So if you do it properly, you get punya. If you don't do it properly, you get papa. So the Brahmana will accumulate papa if he does not do his dharma. And then in future births, he will lose his Brahmana. He'll be born as maybe a Shudra or whatever. But according to what he has done, he will get a birth.
So, sir, Brahmana is a higher order birth in some sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to use the word higher order, yes. We can, in a loose sense, we can say higher order.
Why I'm trying to ask and clarify that is, sir, because keeping in mind with the kind, like if we say the combination of whether so in the earlier slide when you talked about, right, Brahmana is primarily guna from a sattva perspective, whereas Kshatriya is a combination of sattva mixed with rajas, and then Vaishya rajas mixed with tamas, and Shudra is primarily tamas. So if one were to look at that, sattva is what is desirable, let's say, for lack of better words, I may be using that, for one to attend the path of liberation over a period of time in some sense. Yes. Then for somebody to get into that zone, then because there is no fixed time when this cycle has started, then a journey from Shudra to Brahmana has to be initiated at some point in time.
Yes.
So, and hence, hence I was saying that probably then the interpretation in my head is that if somebody has to take that path and act according to the Brahmana gunas per se, in the sense to attain or to start this journey, then people would have to consciously look at those areas and work. But what you're saying is, sir, also if you try to do something else, which is not what you are in this birth, then you will accumulate papa. Then so there's going to be a push and pull in that sense. So how would a person get out of this vicious circles?
It's very simple. See, if you want to aim for samanya dharma, we talked about the difference between samanya dharma and paro dharma. Samanya dharma is happiness in material existence. So you strictly follow your varna. Don't go out of your varna. So you accumulate punya. And through that punya, you get a better existence. A Shudra who does his work of Shudra very sincerely will accumulate the punya because of his sincerity and following the dharma. In future births, he may be born as a Kshatriya, Brahmana, as according to his desires. Right?
Okay, so role in the present varna. That's what one is supposed to look at from a samanya
perspective. Now, let's go to parodharma. Somebody, let's say, for example, a Shudra becomes attracted to the idea of mukti and he wants to attain mukti and he decides to take the path of karma jnana yoga. Okay. Now, in that path, which I'm calling as karma jnana yoga, the path of yoga, he is supposed to perform karma without desiring the results or without being motivated by the results, without right, detachment, non-attachment or detachment, anasakti. Now, which karma is he supposed to perform? He is supposed to perform the karma according to his varna only. So he cannot say, now I am going to look for mukti and therefore I will perform a brahmana's karma. No, he still has to perform the Shudra's karma only, but try to develop the mentality of anasakti. What is meant by anasakti? Anasakti means he says, I don't want punya from this. By default, I'm eligible for punya because I'm doing my dharma very sincerely, but I reject that punya. I offer that punya to Sri Bhagavan. That is called samarpana. So Sri Bhagavan says in the 3rd chapter, when he's discussing Karma Yoga, Karma Yoga, he says that you please offer everything to me. Whatever the fruits of your activities, just offer it to me. You only focus on doing the activity. You're entitled to do your activity, but you're not entitled to the fruits. Because you are aiming for mukti. The fruit that you want is mukti, not the punya. So rejection of punya and aspiration of mukti. So the Shudra should do his paricharya, the paricharyatmakam karma, thinking about mukti as his goal and not punya, and reject that punya, offer that punya to Sri Bhagavan and forget about it.
Okay, got it. Okay.
I wanted to add something here.
Yes.
I think Subhashi, yeah. Subhashi said that Brahmana is the highest, this one. Just wanted to clarify that there's no higher or lower here. If you read Ramayana and Mahabharata, you'll get ample examples of Kshatriyas attaining mukti. For example, Dhritarashtra attaining mukti, who was a Kshatriya. Then Shabari in Ramayanam, she is a Shudra, or I think she's not even a Shudra. She doesn't even belong to the Shudra category. She's beyond the Varnashrama, but still she gets mukti. And then if you look at the Vaishyas or the Sutas, Vidura, they are all people who are in the Varnashrama system, but still they attain mukti. So there is nothing lower or higher here. It is, I think, from this table that you have made, what comes out very clearly is Brahmanas is more to do with his mental state of mind, and the mental state of mind goes on decreasing as we come to the Shudras. Shudras have more to do with the physical, body. They have to use their physical body more, but their mind has to be focused on serving. That's the only thing that is expected of them. So that's how I understand. So there's no higher or lower here. That is how we understand higher, lower in modern world, or that's how we have been conditioned in this yuga.
Thank you,
So I
ma'am.
just wanted to add this point here.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you, ma'am.
I would
Thank you.
also, yeah, I think she has also pointed out that if you go from left to right, the extent of the nature of your activities, the responsibilities you have, go from being more intellectual to more physical. So as you go from Brahmana to Shudra, and the amount of simplicity and so on, that reduces. As you become a Kshatriya, then you are interested in the Adambar. As a Vaishya, you are interested in luxuries and so on. So there is a decrease in simplicity as you go from Brahmana towards the Shudra. Increase in physical labor as compared to the left side. So these are dimensions on which this change happens as you go from one side to the other side, but it's not about higher or lower in terms of status. At least
No, so I got that. Actually, sir, my moot point was I was trying to reconcile in my mind that for somebody who is born a Shudra and the kind of work that a person is supposed to do, because like you said that it is supposed to be in cooperation. But however, in modern life, we get to see somebody, that's my at least personal observation, maybe I'm wrong in that sense, that there are that some people are born with certain privileges and some people are not born with certain privileges. And I have been asking this question to myself, why should somebody be born, like why did I get this birth and somebody else did not get this birth? So I've not been able to reconcile that. Somebody who is born as a Brahmana, as per the Varnas, are probably privileged to do so. That's why I asked this question, that if somebody doesn't do that, then what happens? And you mentioned
Yes.
that the person accumulates papa. So I was trying to accumulate, then how are you born like that? What you answered is that one, in whatever form you're born, if you do that in your role in that birth, then you can attain mukti any which was from that particular Varna as well. So I was trying to reconcile that in my present birth, why, like at least, like how do we justify somebody's birth in a particular, that somebody is able to do certain things, somebody is not given the opportunity to do certain things. So that's where I was trying to reconcile, and hence that question came up.
Yeah. So to put it in a nutshell, it's like responsibility leads to reward. So there is first responsibility, then reward. It's not merely the birth which gives the reward, but executing responsibility or doing your activities responsibly is what ensures reward. Otherwise, there is punishment.
Got it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Rakshit, you have a question?
Yeah, just a small follow-up question was, now we take birth as either of these four, let's say, varnas to serve, let's say, Sri Bhagavana. And they're all ways of, let's say, serving Sri Bhagavana. So do you think, or do you suppose that, this happens and we have to take birth as all four of them before we can really attain Sri Bhagavana? Because...
No, not at all, not at all. See, this is only the way material existence is designed. This has nothing to do with actually attaining Sri Bhagavan, because these people may not even think of attaining Bhagavan as their goal.
Mhm.
In Samanya Dharma, in normal practice of Dharma, which is what Veda dominantly talks about, the goal is not to attain Sri Bhagavan. The goal is only to attain some higher existence in the future. Like, for example, Swarga Loka. Be born in Swarga where I will live eternally without further death. Many people think that Swarga is the ultimate goal of life. Okay, so what do? They follow Dharma, by which they acquire Punya. And the accumulation of Punya over several births gives them eventually a birth in Swarga.
Okay.
So acquiring or attaining Sri Bhagavan is beyond this, is beyond being just following Samanya Dharma. There you go into the realm of yoga. Okay, we talked about yoga.
Bhakti.
Yeah, bhakti and so on. So that can be done as being a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, regardless of which Varna you belong to, or not even belonging to any Varna, you can still attain Sri Bhagavan, like the example that she gave just now. And in the path of bhakti, Varna becomes irrelevant completely. You're no longer thinking of Varna at all. You're only thinking of yourself as a bhakta of Sri Bhagavan, as his dasa, a servant of Sri Bhagavan, and not as any of these four.
Okay, okay. Understood.
So even a tribal, she gave the example of Shabari, who is a tribal, right? So a tribal or what is called a Dalit today, it becomes irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Everybody is equal in front of Shri Bhagavan. That is bhakti.
Understood. Okay. And also the other question I had was, suppose, let's say, or actually that's more similar to what Shubhashish was asking about whether, being, let's say, a Vaishya or Shudra, we can display, let's say, characteristics of Brahmana and whether that is, let's say, interchangeable within the same birth. But I think that has been sufficiently covered already, so that should be.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yes,
we
sir.
will talk
And
about that. Yeah, yes.
yes, and I just wanted to tell one simple example, sir. So there is a story in Odia mythology of on the pastimes of Lord Jagannath, where Shreya, she's a Shudra, and she was not allowed to the temple by the Jagannath Pandas because of some misinterpretation of this one. But she was so focused in her devotion, and she was so focused in her love for Lord Jagannath as well as Goddess Lakshmi, that Goddess Lakshmi visited her own house and had given her a lot of boom about wealth and child, because she was childless and all that. So yes, just to answer Rakshit's question, I think, sir, it depends on the devotion and the connection we have. So even if we are not allowed to the God's home, God will come to our home if we have a strong connection. So this is what I wanted to speak.
That's nice. It's a good example. There's one more example from Udupi. Udupi temple of Sri Krishna established by Madhvacharya. And the Krishna deity is facing the west. It's facing the other side. Normally the deity is established facing the east. In this case, it's facing the west. And the story goes that the deity was actually installed facing the east. But there was a devotee by name Kanakadas. And Kanakadasa was not a Brahmana. So he was not allowed entry into the temple. He was asked to go stand outside and wait for the deity to come out. Now the deity comes out for the Rath Yatra, I mean the evening chariot festival. Every evening there is a Rath there. It would be very often there is. But he cannot go inside and see the Mula deity, the Mula form of Krishna. So Kanakadasa goes to the backside and he sings from there. And the story goes that the wall broke open and he got darshan from there. And the deity turned to the west, to its backside, so that Kanakadasa could see him. And then onwards he has stood like that. So today also when we go to the temple in Udupi, we see the deity through a window, not through the normal door. The normal door is still there, but it's in the opposite side. The normal door is closed. It is never opened because it's the backside now. So the window is where you peep in through the window. There's a grill, there are grills, and you peep in through the grills, and then you get darshan of the deity. So that's another story also. Yes, somebody has posted something in the chat. Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, that was a good discussion. Now, moving forward. The second half of the shloka, Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. Tasya Kartaram Api Mam Vidhi Akartaram. Know me to be both the Karta as well as the non-Karta. So how do we understand this apparently conflicting statement? So Sri Bhagavan is the Karta because he is the original initiator of the process of material creation. Okay, this process of Srishti, what is called as Srishti, or the creation of this material existence, of material universe, what to call it that, begins with his initiation. He initiates that process. And through his body, the universe emerges, Brahma is born, and within the universe, Brahma creates the secondary creation. Okay, so he's therefore the originator, and he's the cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karanam. He says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, Janmadhyasya Yataha. There are so many phrases in the Veda, the Upanishads, and in the Smriti Shastra, which all point to Sri Bhagavan as the originator of everything in existence. And therefore, naturally, he is also the Karta of the Varna, because the Varnas are eventually formed after all the creation happens. So therefore, he is the Karta. then why is he not the karta? He's not the karta because his nature has nothing to do with the material prakriti. The varna is a product of the material prakriti. It's composed of the three gunas. It's decided on the basis of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. But Sri Bhagavan has actually no contact with the gunas. He is completely beyond them. The gunas never influence him. And because of that, his swarupa is completely free from the prakriti. So because of Prakriti's the direct involvement in the varnas, the Prakriti is the one that is the proximal cause. If at all Sri Bhagavan can be called a cause, he is a distal cause. He is not the proximal cause. Therefore, he is an akarta. Okay, that's one explanation of why he is also called the akarta. He is not the karta at all. He is very far away from the way this creation happens, the varna happens. Another understanding of why he is not the karta, because in the Gita, later on you will see the word karta being used. A few shlokas from now, Sri Bhagavan distinguishes between karma and akarma. And there, this discussion will take us into understanding how, when our action has no result, no material result, like punya or papa, okay? And then we say that that is akarma, it is not karma anymore. Karma is that which has an action, it has a result. It either results in punya or it results in papa. But if there is an action which results in neither punya nor papa, then even though the action has been performed, it is karma in that sense. It's actually akarma because it has no result. Okay. Sri Bhagavan's actions actually have neither punya nor papa as a result. He is beyond that. Okay, so they produce neither punya nor papa because punya and papa are actually material credit. They are credit in terms of what will happen to a person in their future material existence. But Sri Bhagavan has no material existence at all. So there is no question of punya and papa for him, for his actions. Okay? And this applies to not only Sri Bhagavan, it applies to anybody who is a Jivan Mukta, one who has actually purified his consciousness completely, who is free from all hankering for material enjoyment. Somebody who is completely free from all hankering for material enjoyment, who is on the path of yoga, a sadhaka, or somebody who has even crossed the stage of sadhana and reached sadhya, has become perfect. He's actually attained mukti even living in this body, a jivana mukta. Such a person also has the same thing. His actions will not have any material results. He performs actions free from desire. And therefore, he is also an akarta for whatever actions he performs. So this is also the meaning of the word akarta. So Sri Bhagavan is both the karta and the akarta. Okay? And the allied point that is made also here is that we should keep in mind that because he is beyond the gunas, he is imperishable. His body is not different from the Atma. Atma and body are the same. Okay? Unlike it is for us, we, the Atma, are different from this body. Our body is not the same as us. Our self is different from the body. But this doesn't happen for Sri Bhagavan. His Atma and body are the same. He comes in that same form that he eternally is in. Okay, and therefore, he is imperishable because of that. The Atma is avyaya, it's eternal. Therefore, Sri Bhagavan is always eternal. In mentioning that he is an akarta, it's also mentioned that he is avyaya because they go together. So it's important to know that whatever we are learning from the Gita is actually based on the Veda. It's based on the Vedanta. And so this very beautiful shloka in the Manusmriti, Vedo akhilo dharma moolam, smriti shile chatarpidham, acharashchaiva sadhunam, atmanastushtirevacha. Okay, because we keep asking this question that how do we understand what is dharma? Earlier, if you recollect, a few sessions back, we had done this shloka where what is how does a person know how to follow dharma? This question was asked, right? And there it was said that dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam tarko apratishtaha shrutayo vibhinnaha nasau rishi naiko munir yasya vachah pramanam. Yes, naiko munir yasya vachah pramanam dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gatasya pantaha. This is a shloka from the Mahabharata. And then the shloka says that to understand dharma, one should actually follow a great Mahajana. That's the only way. By just debating with each other, by logical arguments, argumentation and debating, it's really impossible to understand what dharma really means. And therefore, one should follow a Mahajana, a great personality, and understand from his life, the way he lives, the way he thinks, what dharma really is. Now here in the Manava Dharma Shastra, in Manusmriti, this definition is given, or this explanation is given of how we can understand dharma. Dharma Moolam, the base of dharma, is described in terms of four things. The first, the most fundamental thing in the base of dharma is Veda. Vedo Akhilo means the entire Veda. Okay, undivided Veda. Whatever we call today as Rig Veda, Sama Veda, originally was known as only Veda. There's only one thing. Okay. Vedo Akhilo, the entire comprehensive body of Veda, which is actually said to be infinite in size, but today we have a finite component of that. That is the base of dharma. But it may not be possible for everybody to access that. So therefore, Smriti Shile cha Tadvidam. There are people who have realized the message of the Veda. They've understood what the Veda wants to say. And therefore, they have written, they have produced texts, they have produced instructions for people in the form of different Shastra. It's called Smriti Shastra. Veda is called a Shruti Shastra, whereas the works of people who have understood the Veda is called a Smriti Shastra. And the place from where this shloka itself comes is called Manusmriti or Manava Dharma Shastra. That's an example of a Smriti Shastra. Okay, the Smriti is used in a broad sense. That term refers to, you can even include the Itihasa in it because it contains the recollections of great people, right? So Smriti Shile means Smriti and the conduct of the people, Shila or Shilam, the conduct of the people who wrote the Smriti, the people who understood the Veda, their character, their virtues. So looking at that, for example, now if we talk about the character of Manu, what were his qualities, what kind of activities Manu did, then we get a glimpse into what dharma can mean. Right? Similarly, if we talk about the character of Prahalad or Narada, those great people who understood what the Veda actually was trying to say, then we can try to understand what dharma is. And then Acharasthaiva sadhana, the conduct of saintly people. Okay, so even if we are not able to access the Smriti Shastra, then we can look at people who are very saintly today, people who are very simple, austere, saintly, devoted to understanding God, meditating God. So Acharasthaiva sadhana, their conduct, their character, okay, that explains what dharma is, or that embodies dharma. And through that, we can understand what dharma is. And finally, he says, Atmanustushti revacha. Atmanustushti means contentment within oneself. So he's trying to say that beyond all these three, the most fundamental requirement is that one should be content within oneself if one follows dharma. So by following dharma, if one does not experience contentment, then there is something wrong in one's following or understanding of dharma. So following of dharma leads to contentment, and that contentment is the goal. So one should be, one should take that contentment as the symptom of dharma, and one should understand that, okay, the person who is now experiencing this contentment, or if I am experiencing contentment, then I am practicing dharma. Okay, so Atmanastushti is considered as one of the bases of understanding dharma. Now, this is the 6th shloka of the 2nd chapter of Manusmriti. Now, in the 12th shloka too, the same idea is expressed. The 12th shloka is as follows: Veda Smritihi Sadachara Swasya Cha Priyamatmanana Etat Chaturvidam Prahu Sakshat Dharmasya Lakshanam. Okay, the word Lakshanam means simple colloquial translation is quality, but a deeper translation of the word Lakshanam, Lakshyate Anena Iti Lakshanam, that by which something else is understood. That is Lakshanam. Okay, so through these Veda, Smriti, Sadachara, and Priyamatmana, Atmanastushti, okay, the pleasing sense of inner contentment. Through all of these, one can understand what dharma is. So the Bhagavad-Gita is a book of dharma, and the Bhagavad-Gita actually condenses the essential message of the Veda into a Vedantic understanding. It gives us the Vedantic understanding as the highest conclusion of the Veda. And by following the Bhagavad Gita, one actually experiences Atmanastushti, the inner contentment of the self. So this is the formal translation. And this is from the Manava Dharma Shastra. I will stop with this today. And if you have any questions or comments, we still have a few minutes left in the class.
Prof, I had a question on this understanding of dharma itself. So
Yes,
I've had quite a few discussions with several people, and I'm usually shocked to see that the way people understand this is, for example, something goes wrong or someone's done someone bad with something, and now this person, now understanding of dharma and the issue with the relationship of it with contentment is where my question comes from. So somebody feels that, no, I need to forget and forgive. I think forgiveness is something that is a higher dharma, and so I'll forgive, and that gives me contentment. And I need to understand that if that this sense of revenge is like a poison tree. The more I keep it, the more it becomes a problem. Whereas a separate segment of people might think that unless I take revenge in this, and I need to plot, I need to plan, I need to do something, and I need to be the next big Shakuni's competitor to find contentment. So it's shocking how convinced both these people are in their understanding of dharma. One finds that revenge to be the dharma, and the other finds forgiving to be the dharma, the basis as kindness. So how do people really find what's contentment? Like for people who say don't read the Gita or things like that, where does their idea or sense or realization of contentment come from?
according to the Bhagavad Gita, it comes from the influence of Maya. Maya is the Shakti of Sri Bhagavan, which keeps us in this material existence by giving us false knowledge, or keeping us covered from the real knowledge, keeping the real knowledge away from us. So under the influence of Maya, people engage in activities of hatred, envy, jealousy, revenge, and things like that, right? And it's because of that our material existence continues. We take birth again and again in different species of life, and suffering is experienced. There's no one in this world who is free from suffering, except one who is genuinely connected to Sri Bhagavan. When I say genuinely, I mean 100% genuinely, who's completely pure in their consciousness. Other than that, everybody, including the sadhaka, the person who is trying to make progress in spiritual life, even that person, theoretically he knows, but practically to internalize the theoretical instructions of Shastra and purify oneself is another ballgame, right? It requires effort. So apart from that pure person and the person who is situated in that Jivana Mukta stage, who has say pure prema, even apart from that, everybody else is suffering in this world. There is misery in some form or the other. What we see as external happiness is that people look happy externally, but internally there is a lot of conflict. There's a lot of internal suffering. There's jealousy. There is discontentment because of competition, because of not getting the material desires are never ending. We have seen this in the second chapter as well, right? They keep, the more you satisfy them, the more they come back. You can never satisfy, you can never quell your desire by satisfying it. So discontentment is always present in this world. However rich a person is, however powerful a person is.
I see. Like, I think my question comes from where say I understand the broader perspective. So say, broadly speaking, say I was supposed to get, let's say someone's in a very competitive job, Like I used to be in a very competitive job earlier in my career. And I often saw where one person is jabbing the other person, like even if, I would see newbies who are in the job, say 21, 22-year-old, and I would see people in their late 40s, and the latter would not think even twice before jabbing the younger ones for another 5 lakhs of bonus. So, and that was very common in investment banking. And so where these kids would now grow up thinking that when I become their age, either I'll show them what needs to be done, or I'll show my juniors that I am the boss. So I think there it used to be a thing. So where they see that they are the cause, the immediate senior is the cause, or someone, their colleague or somebody is a cause of their, but they had a choice to do something that would give them a slightly better life, but the latter chooses to give this person a slightly harder life. So what should this person do? Should this person say that, okay, this was, I had that karma and I am getting fruits of my karma, so I should accept whatever the Supreme gives me? That's how I should look at it. Or should they be like, that, okay, Krishna also says that I should, at the end of the day, without being connected, I should be fighting for what's right. And again, this thinking comes from, they're saying this particular senior is unfair to me, and I don't want this senior to be unfair to 40 other people who are young. So I am fighting for dharma. I want this guy to be punished and thrown out of the company, and I'll do whatever is needed so that this person is thrown out. And I'm saying this because I suddenly remembered someone who believed in Krishna told me something like this, that I would want this guy to be thrown out so that he doesn't do the same thing he did to me, to 40 other people. So I'm plotting for revenge. I'm just being Arjun. Why are you thinking I'm being Shakuni? So thinking is a problematic thing, is what I feel. So this, how does one deal with this, with such complex thinking, and what would you probably give as an advice to such a person?
See, from the point of view of bhakti, that person has to judge for themselves about their motivation. It's very difficult to make out from a logical argument whether somebody is motivated by the thought of bhakti. The logical argument sounds like that, or is it just a cover for an inner ahankara? Sometimes we are driven by the sense of ahankara and revenge, right? Not by the sense of bhakti. Now, I was telling you in the last class too that in bhakti, the thinking is like this. The motivation comes from anukulata. Ekata, anukulata. Ekata means, ekata, anukulata are the two essential components of bhakti. Ekata means the thinking that he is mine, Sri Bhagavan is mine and I am his. Okay, this is how you would think towards anybody with whom you have a very close relationship. Somebody who you think understands you very well, like your mother, for example, or maybe your wife, or anybody else who is a close friend with whom you have a very deep relationship. That person will never embarrass you. That person will never betray you. That person will, accepts your feelings, understands your feelings, empathizes with your feelings very much. How do you feel towards such a person? That person is mine. Similarly, I am that person. I'm willing to give anything to that person, right? In the material, I'm talking about a typical material relationship of close bonding, right? Now, when we have the same relationship with Bhagavan of this nature, that is called ekata in bhakti. Means we develop the understanding that Sri Bhagavan is mine, and he is my most, the greatest well-wisher. He understands me perfectly, and I am his. I will give everything for him, for his pleasure. Okay, this oneness, this is he is mine and I am his. That is called ekata. Anukulata comes from ekata. Anukulata means the thinking that whatever I do, whatever activities I do physically or whatever I do mentally with my mind, with my intelligence, all that should be done in a way that is very pleasing to him. It should never cause any pain to him. Okay, this thinking is called anukulata. Anukulata means you mold your existence in a way that is giving pleasure to Sri Bhagavan. Okay, this is the thinking of anukulata. So now, when a person does action, what is motivating that person to do that action decides whether there is bhakti or there is no bhakti, is done out of ahankara. Now, in the absence of this ekata anukulata, what normally people would be doing things for is basically some form of ahankara. Ahankara is the sense of identity that we have about ourselves. Like, I think I am Ajit, somebody else thinks he is Arnab, right? That identity, and because of that identity, we have so many connections with other things in this world. Whether the connections are with our relatives or with our institution or with our company or whatever, our preferences, our car, our house. All these connections are based on this bodily identity of being Ajit, Arnab, etc. Right? So if the motivation to do what that person is doing in your company is coming from such ahankara, then even though the logical argument is that I don't want him to do what he did to me to 40 other people, that argument is basically, it's not bhakti, it's not yoga, it's not going to take him towards Sri Bhagavan. It's only going to take his material existence one step further. It's only to satisfy that ahankara that he is doing it. Although logically it sounds virtuous. Externally, when he says that I'm doing it like this, it sounds very virtuous. Actually, to look at the larger picture, this world actually, so it's in the larger sense, it is good also that his ahankara is playing a role in preventing this guy from doing harm to 40 other people. Yes. Definitely, it's in the larger picture, it is good. But when you're talking from the lens of yoga, whether it's going to take him towards Sri Bhagavan or not, this is my answer, that to go towards Sri Bhagavan, the mentality of bhakti is required.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you. It all depends on like the inner purpose, like what is that person actually feeling when he's doing this? Like, is it like a fake mold to do such an act, or is it something really that's driven from like, okay, I don't think about consequences, I don't think what happened to me, but I'm really like ekta anukulata. That is what I'm looking for. I know planning against this man will please Sri Krishna because I'm helping other people. Like whether that feeling really exists from the heart is
exactly. Yes. By doing this, Sri Krishna will be pleased. If a person thinks like that and then does that, he throws that person out of the company. By genuinely thinking like that, not he says, I don't want anything for myself. Internally, externally he may say anything. Externally, anybody can say anything. But internally, within himself, regardless of what he says externally, internally, if he's genuinely thinking that I don't want any revenge against this person. He's also a jivatma like me. I'm also a jivatma. Both of us are insignificant in front of Bhagavan. I don't want any revenge. I don't want to harm this guy. Let this guy be happy. But I'm doing this. I'm doing this act of throwing him out of the company only because he will harm others. And by throwing him out, Sri Bhagavan will like it. Sri Bhagavan will like the act that he's thrown out, and this company will run in a stable manner after that. So with that motivation, if somebody does, then it is bhakti. It will take him towards the same action,
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was very helpful.
Rakshit?
Yeah, just a follow-up question on this situation. So now generally what happens is in a work environment, there's this perception that, the thing that a superior is doing is for reasons that will benefit me in future. And you keep justifying it to a point where it becomes over-justification. So you don't realize that whether it's contentment that you're speaking about, or is it just a fallacy that exists? So that's where that question comes in, when you're not able to perceive whether it's genuine in the first place or not. And then that questions the whole contentment basis of it. So how do you figure that out, whether what is coming out or what is being, let's say, acted upon by the superior or senior is actually genuine in the first place or not?
Temporary versus permanent contentment. Is that where this is, Rakshit? If I had a similar thought as well. Is that where your head's at?
Yeah, somewhere it's hitting that tangent.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
My understanding, if you from a spiritual lens point of view, permanent contentment is never possible unless we follow some path of yoga, where we are connecting to Bhagavan either through karma jnana system or through the bhakti system. In some way, we are connecting to him. Only then are we moving towards permanent contentment. If we are not, see the anticipation of future happiness by normal material progress, like getting a promotion, getting a bigger status in society, getting more wealth and possessions, having a bigger house, these kind of things, the anticipation of contentment is illusory. Means they actually will not lead to permanent contentment. Because when you reach that stage, for example, let's say that I'm now living in a 2-bedroom house, but my mind is on the 5-bedroom house that I will have 10 years from now, when I have saved so much wealth. And I'm saving wealth for that 5-bedroom house. Now, I think that when I get that 5-bedroom house, I'll be very content. I visualize myself living in a place where there are lawns outside my house, there is a swimming pool, there is this, that, and there are servants, and there is money to take care of all problems, etc. But when I actually reach that stage, if my consciousness is not purified, if it's only external, then I'm unlikely to feel contentment. I will still be bogged down by so many other new problems which will appear at that time, which are not visible now. This is called Maya. Maya shows you only one side of reality. It shows you a side of reality which will get you further entangled in this material existence. It will not show you the full reality. Right?
Correct. So I understand how Maya will affect it, but I'm saying suppose it's not even Maya, but it's just the acts of the people around me which are causing that definition of contentment to change within myself. Then at that point, is there a static, let's say, what was that called? A static, I forgot the word, sorry. Yeah, a static contentment of sorts, or is it something that will again keep changing? And then you need to define what is the appropriate contentment for that level when the external environment is changing.
See, contentment is phenomenological in nature, isn't it? Contentment is something that is experienced and realized. It is not something that you can define. What I mean is, see, you may say that if I have a 56-inch TV, I'll be content, right? So what you're now telling is you're not describing contentment there. You're describing what you think will be a source which lead to an antecedent of contentment. What might lead to contentment there by saying you're referring to that 56-inch TV, right? But if there is contentment, then you will experience it. And it's through that experience that contentment is actually realized, not otherwise, right? Okay, now the question then comes back to what we said earlier, that how long will that 56-inch TV actually give you that contentment? Is it sustainable? So 56-inch TV will come and it will occupy a wall in your house and you'll start watching it. You'll definitely get enjoyment from it, no doubt about that. And you will experience contentment. Now, for how long will that contentment be the same experience that you had initially when it came? Now, this is where the Shastra comes and tells us, and we see it also happening in practice, that after some time, the contentment that the 56-inch TV gave initially does not last in most people. Most people will look for something more or something different. And that is what is driving what we call as the change in this world. Why are people constantly innovating? Why is a company which made that TV looking to produce the next TV, next model of TV? Right? Why is it doing that? It's because it knows that people will not be content with what they sold earlier for a very long time. And they will want a change. And that is where I can make money out of them. Isn't it? So any material object cannot give permanent contentment. It's not about defining it like that. It's not about definition. It's about experiencing it. And in experience, we find that it's not happening. That's why there is frustration. The richest people who can get anything they want, they have enough money to buy anything they want in this world, they are unhappy. Why are they unhappy? Why are they committing suicides?
Right. But also, if let's say I agree, there may not be a definition of, let's say, contentment. But if contentment itself keeps changing, then that goes against the very basic idea of contentment in the first place, right?
Yes. So contentment, so true, genuine contentment will be sustainable. If it is genuine, that's why the difference between sat and asat. Sat means that which lasts for a long time. Asat is that which is temporary, which is not really. So literally the word asat means that which doesn't exist. But what we understand it in practical terms is something that only is very temporary. It lasts for some time and it's no longer there after that. right? So that's why that what we call as contentment, so it is only for some time. Therefore, it never really existed from this definition, sat versus asat. So if it is real contentment, sat in the sense of sat, then it should last and only grow. It should only grow over time steadily. It should never diminish, right? And that is what this is talking about, atmanastushti. When we follow dharma and we sustainably follow dharma, we continue to follow dharma forever, then that contentment only goes on increasing. It does not decrease. It only goes on building up. And eventually, at some point of time, we realize that there is something called as parodharma, which gives me eternal contentment or eternal happiness. So then we switch to that and we try to get that contentment, which will never diminish, regardless of what happens even to the body. So even at death, when the body is given up, even then that happiness continues to remain with us forever. It's because it's not dependent on the body. It's free from the body. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that kind of answers my question. It clarifies that aspect. I think I will still have some more follow-up questions that perhaps I can write to you or we can discuss.
Yes.
But for now, yeah, this was nice. Yeah.
Rakshit, please involve me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can take it on a separate call, perhaps.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, because I have exactly the same questions that Rakshit has, like all of these. Like I'm like, yeah. Thank you so much.
One quick rejoinder to my earlier statements is, we can learn a lot about this nature of contentment by reflecting on our own past lives. When I say past life, I mean the earlier part of our life, where we can look at, what kind of things made us happy earlier and why all those same things don't make us happy now. We have moved on from those things into other things, looking for contentment. So we are constantly chasing different things in the search for contentment, which means what we really got earlier was not contentment, right? For example, as children, we looked for toys. We looked for different types of small toys or things like chocolates or like, clothes or some coloring book and things like that, color pencils. Those things made us temporarily happy. But if there was real contentment at that time, then we would have stayed with them, right? We didn't stay with them. We moved on to other things. So throughout our life, we kept moving on to things which we thought will give us contentment. And we are still moving on to other things now. We are looking for different things now. And that shows that we haven't got contentment. What we got earlier was not contentment. That can be a logical argument to point out the nature of this search for contentment. We are searching for contentment, but we haven't got it so far.
Right. And perhaps the final contentment can only be realized once you realize, let's say, Sri Bhagavana, you attain them, right? That's where you attain the final bit of contentment.
Yes, only in that relationship. Once we get that relationship, there is contentment. That's what the Shastra is teaching us.
Okay, yeah.
Shanno mitrasham varunaha, shanno bhavatvaryama, shanna indro vrihaspatihi, shanno vishnurkramaha, namo brahmane, namaste vayo, tvameva pratyaksham brahmasi, tvameva pratyaksham brahmavadisham, ritamavadisham, satyamavadisham, tanmamavit, tadbhaktaramavit, avin mam, avin bhaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Dhanyavadaha. Punarmilamam.